Thank you very much, all of you, for joining us today. I would like to start with you, Mr. Narang, if I may. And this question I would put to all three of you, but Mr. Narang, if I could come to you first, from a broader perspective, from a combination of a broader perspective as well as your own experience, what do you feel is the current status of the domestic family office relationship with GPs across the board, whether it be venture capital funds, private equity funds, infrastructure, real estate? Could you give us your take on that, please?
Thank you so much for having me. I think in terms of relationship with the GPs, we are still at a very nascent stage because we are trying to understand the mindset of the Indian GPs. And to be honest, there is certain kind of a gap which needs to be bridged up. There is a certain level of trust building which needs to take place. And from my perspective, I think we are a bit more distant than actually, understanding the GP's perspective and GP's understanding the actual LP's perspective.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Rupani, same question, please.
So I think there are two schools here. So it's either you're an old school venture capitalist, private equity guy, or you're a new school person. And I've seen, we've been in this space for over the last 12 years, being an LP across several funds. And what we realize is the old school folks still look at this as an elitist trade. That, hey, give me your money, I'll come back to you when I raise the next fund, you'll get a quarterly statement, good to know you, right? The new guys, and I give them kudos, they're very much focused on the fact that you are more than capital, you're a family office, you have a business network, you have connects. You may not bring a check on the first round, but you may bring 10 doors, you may open 10 doors. So I think we're seeing, at least I'm saying in the last 3 to 4 years, I'm seeing the new age fund managers being a lot more progressive and a lot more collaborative, trying to really use domain expertise that most family offices come from a business. They come from a domain expertise. So really trying to tap that. So that's great to see.
Mr. Murali, if I could ask you the same question, but on top of that, there has been a sort of, as Mr. Rupani mentioned, there are two schools, as he said, but from the perspective of the first school, or maybe even certain parts of the second school, there's been a bit of a mismatch as well. So I was wondering if you could sort of give us your perspective as well as expand a bit more on this mismatch.
I'll give you my our thoughts. What we see from the family office, there is still a lot of difference between the traditional GPs and LPs participating in that. So we always feel, and one part is that family offices, to a large extent, that blind pool investment sort of concept. This is something which is getting outdated. So there are some market funds, or there are some specialized funds comes up. See, we need your expertise. To have for family office, we have a real estate expertise. So somebody is doing a prop tech investment, said, see, we need your help. You can come as a LP in our fund. But same time, we need your expertise, and we will give also an active participation. That is where we said we will be keen to participate in that. But apart from that, if it is a traditional VC fund, as Jay said, fund will come today, and then there will be a normal monthly report comes on table, and then we will see the fund manager at the time of the next fundraise. And still in between, we will be struggling to find out what is happening to our money. And we experienced to that also. I mean, we in our journey, we are experienced to that. Sometimes the fund manager vanished after he raised the money. Only the report will comes to us, and we need to chase them to understand what happened to this investment, sort of thing. Yeah, so there is an old school and there is a new school. So we are seeing both sides. But what I feel or I seen is family officers is now more interested or more keen to have direct investment than getting into a fund, or at least you should see what is where we are investing money. I mean, at least you don't want to take a blind bet. Like the fund manager is going to invest this X money and going to, on some investment in the future which is going to get some X return. So that era is over. I feel that is over.
So one of the points that came out through my conversations, through my pre-panel conversations with all three of you, was that there is one of the aspects in which there is a gap is the initial outreach that is conducted by GPs towards LPs such as yourselves. Each LP, whether it be a sovereign wealth fund or a pension fund or a family office, has their own criteria, has their own return objectives, has their own investment philosophies as well. From a family office perspective, Mr. Rupani, and then obviously to Mr. Narang and Mr. Murli as well, but with you first, Mr. Rupani, what are the sort of specificities of a family office that a GP should sort of know while going in to be able to ask you to make a commitment to their vehicle?
So I think it just adding on to where Murli was going, I think in what he was saying, it's simple. We are family offices, so let's get some basics right. Family office is a business office. It comes out of somebody who either is either still running a big business or has exited a business. So these are guys that have made money through what? Relationships. They invest in relationships, they know how to harness relationships, and it's a long-term game. If you're going to come and sell me a 10-year product, the least I'd expect is that you spend a couple of years, dropping by the office and saying, hi, this is who I am, this is our team, this is the kind of deals we do, right? It's not about walking in for a check. So I think that's the gap that exists. As in for family offices, it's a relationship story. It's not always the money, right? And I think that's the split. People expect I walk in, I'll have a few meetings, maybe a couple of diligence meetings after that, and hey, I'm sitting with a fat checkbook, let's cut it out and hand it out, right? And so I think there's a shift. I think family offices in India also have moved up the ladder in terms of understanding where opportunities are. Like Murli said, if I'm they're in real estate like us, if there's a prop tech fund, let's talk about how we can engage. We put a bigger check. Maybe we're part of the IC. Maybe we're a sponsor. I think funds need to be a lot more, going back to CRM. I keep taking back to CRM. Who's your customer? Figure out who he is, what he needs before you walk in the door.
Mr. Narang, would you like to add to what Mr. Rupani said?
Yeah, I would certainly agree to Jay what he said. They need to really understand that alternatives still, I can speak for ourselves, is a very small percentage of our overall portfolio. There are two aspects to it. Let's be very honest and clear about it. In terms of a family office investment philosophy, we are very conservative. And that already squeezes out on the alternatives part. And if it's only a 5% or a 10% allocation of my portfolio, then they have to work all the more hard as compared to anybody else. I'll have my fixed income bonds, I'll have my direct equities. Alternatives are already squeezed out. And if I have to see at the end of the day, if it's on a risk pattern, for me, my business and these alternatives stand on a similar risk. And if I have a certain more capital, I can put it in my own business. And for those family offices who have not exited their business, now to invest in an alternative means I am relying upon another entrepreneur who is gonna earn me money. Whereas I have my business, I am an entrepreneur, and I can put that 10% because that allocation, at least at our level, I don't see it changing in the coming future. It's still 5% or at max 10% for at least us.
So then, Mr. Murli, how would you sort of take that philosophy?
What happened is over these years, the family offices has completely evolved, as Jay said. I remember I've been in 2010. About 10 years back, I've been the first time I joined the family office. It was pure what you do. You buy some assets, real estate, you put some bonds and some mutual funds. So alternative investments was not there. Maybe 5% maximum. And there are hardly any few funds, and none of those funds have performed in their life also. Those funds that came at that point of time. That's a different story. But when I see from 2010 to 2021, the promoters would also like to participate or help these young entrepreneurs. I see a lot of interest coming out from the promoters itself. See, somebody is coming up with a new business. And these promoters are all coming up with 30, 40 years of experience. They have run the business. They have successfully run the business. They have made their money out of this business. But none of this fund actually would like to leverage this expertise. What they wanted is, their focus is, what is your money in your treasury? Give me a check. I will take the check and I will do my own management. I mean, there can be a lot of value added done by these family officers, taking them on board and all those things. But this is completely, I've not seen, except a one or two, which came to us saying, see, we would like to participate. I mean, we like to have your expertise. But I haven't seen anybody, at least 20, 30 funds which you have seen, all the guys were just come up with a deck saying, see, this is my fund, this is what I expect, 2x, 3x, 5x return, give me a check. If you put 5 million, I will give you anchor investment. If you put 3 million, I will give you a preferential fees. It cannot work that way. You have to change the thought actually. You have to get actively, these family offices also, you have to get actively them engaged. The active engagement has to be happen. This is completely missing in this field. Actually, I haven't seen it. Jay and Vishesh has to.
No, but Murli, I'll just add a small note there. I absolutely agree with what you said, and I think it's the industry that needs to sort of wake up and say there are more innovative ways to connect.
Exactly.
It just can't be fundraising, right? The reality is, the needs are so different today. Just to highlight, it's such a simple concept. There's a whole next gen to all our families, and the next gen a lot of times doesn't want to do the main business. They want to do investing. So I'm still to wait for a deck that says I have a next gen council to teach them how to do venture. Till date, I haven't seen one. Maybe there is.
No, I haven't seen.
But
I have the same issue that I haven't seen.
Because our next gen also wants to do that, right? And who better to learn with than when you're an LP in a fund and they're coaching your next gen, right? So I think those synergies and that innovation needs to take place. It just can't be black box investing anymore.
So those synergies are there, especially as both of you just alluded to right now. The synergies are there, and family offices, as you said, Mr. Murli, they've evolved. They've started seeing the benefits of alternatives, not just in terms of being able to invest in a fund, act as an LP to one or many, but doing those direct investments. I think you said it at the top of your remarks. You said that there are direct investments. There are sort of blind pool, probably taking a bit of a backseat. Can you, Mr. Narang, help us build on this? Is there a growing preference here for direct investments? What is your own experience, and what would you sort of have to say regarding that aspect?
So certainly, to get out of a traditional mindset of a fund, we do look at co-investments, and because that's for us, how do we look at alternatives is to understand that space, because I can't deny that they are the people who are venturing out into new spaces, and for us, from a business perspective, also we need to know what is happening out in the market, and from that perspective, and from the traditional mindset of control perspective, co-investments make much more sense than just investing in a blind pool and trusting, getting engaged for a 10-year long period, which may not return your capital or may return your capital. This is a business where we think we have synergies, where we think we can put our own intellect and experience to grow up that co-investment. We feel that's another area which kind of is, I am thinking that it is replacing the current set of our private equity or something.
I'd like to bring the panel to a close. Thank you very much. But before that, if we've touched so many points through this panel, and I would like to ask each of you to sort of, it's difficult, yes, but I would like to ask each of you to sort of give me one point that you would like to communicate to the GPs who may be sitting in the audience with us today, or who may take it across to their other peers in the GP ecosystem as well. What is that one thing you would say from a family office perspective?
Should I go first?
Yes, please, absolutely.
So I think for us, it's the exit. Have a better answer to the exit strategy. Have that answer ready. Irrespective of anything.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Murli?
We're looking for something where we can do an active participation, or I would say active participation, or a kind of a co-investment, something apart from the typical, that vanilla fund structure. Something innovative, if something can be built in, where the expertise and all is can be leveraged and all. That is something where we will look into.
Mr. Rupani?
I would say know your customer. The family office ecosystem is a very different beast. And each family office has a very different mandate. They're not all the same. Some are extremely conservative, some are extremely aggressive. You really have to spend time. It's a relationship game. Don't skip that, because we're all relationship guys. So if you skip that, then trust factor drops, as Vishesh said. If the trust isn't there, the money is not following. So it's a long game. Let's stay true to it and proceed. I think there's a great partnership there.